What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more punk rock, and back with some more very early Blink-182. I think shortly after they changed their name from Blink to Blink-182, which if you don't know the history, there was another band called Blink. I want to say they're like a French group or something. And when this Blink began using that name, I think they were hit with a cease and desist or copyright infringement threat, and they had to change their name to Blink-182. This is the album Cheshire Cat, 1994. Certainly one of the early punk albums in my collection, though not the first. People who know this channel will know Propagandi's How to Clean Everything, which is from 1993, was the first one that I got into, and I eventually would start listening to Bad Religion, Subhumans, and many other groups, as well as some, let's say, more popular punk bands from the early 90s. Offspring is one that I got into early on. But yes, I remember getting this album and really enjoying the fast yet melodic stylings. Now, as I've commented in other Blink-182 reactions, over the next two albums my enthusiasm waned a bit because they went more pop sounding, they slowed down, and there wasn't the same energy as I felt in the first album that I got, which I think was technically, it's either their second album or maybe their first proper album. Buddha was a release that they put out before this, but I want to say that was an EP, I'm not sure. I think I've had this conversation in previous Blink reactions. In any case, Cheshire Cat is one that I look back on very fondly, and I think musically it stands up today. It's a very good and fast example of 90s pop punk. And yes, we're going to listen to a tune called Touchdown Boy, which I was reminded of because I did a reaction to Sade's Smooth Operator, which is very different in terms of the setting and not only the sonic atmosphere, but perhaps even the attitude. But the person described, I feel like, is of a similar ilk, meaning in Sade's Smooth Operator, she's talking about someone who is sort of a scoundrel, a heartbreaker, someone who has all the right looks, all the right moves, but goes from bar to club across the country and is with a new woman every night and leaves them behind and doesn't even really view them as a person. And I was saying in my reaction to that song that the song is praising him in terms of his abilities and his charm and allure, but it's additionally condemning him and saying that, again, he's a scoundrel, he's got a cold heart and he's a heartbreaker. So there's a bit of a mixed assessment, and I think the same here for Touchdown Boy. So yeah, reminded me of the song, and I realized I hadn't been back to Blink-182 in a while. And yes, the song is Touchdown Boy, and it's about like a quarterback. I think maybe a high school quarterback, but you could also see it as like a college quarterback. And I think they were maybe in their early 20s at this point, so perhaps like the college setting makes a little more sense. But either way, it's about a guy who's, he's the star of a football team, a charming and handsome guy, but really he's just looking to hook up, and he does it with a lot of different girls, and he seems to regard them as not much more than feathers in his cap or trophies on his wall, and he has this same I'm going to be with a new girl the next night and the next night, and I don't really care what I'm doing to people. And the narrator, who I sort of imagine is another kid at the school and one who maybe is not as successful with the ladies, he's in a way praising this guy, saying well, he's the one who scores, so you can't really argue with what he's doing. And scores, of course, football, touchdown, but also scoring in those dark, sweaty rooms, which is one of the lines in the song. But I think implicitly there's a critique, and he's saying that this guy is, again, a bit of a scoundrel and someone who doesn't deserve to have all the philanderings and exploits that he's having, because by comparison maybe to the narrator, he's not as savory of a fellow. So again, I think there's a critique, even if part of the song is saying, well, you gotta hand it to him, he's really good at what he does and he gets what he wants. So yeah, I made that connection the other night and I felt like I had to follow up. So with no further ado, let's hear it. This is Blink-182 from Cheshire Cat, 1994, and the track is called Touchdown Boy.
This is one guy, there's no one like him in all of the world, 'cause you can always see those girls down on their knees in those dark sweaty rooms, planning out his thoughts. He's waiting for just the right one by one as they walk right through the door. They keep on coming back. I guess they just want more. Yeah, fun, fun, fun. As you might call him a whore, but just look where he's at, 'cause he is the one that scores.
Well, Tom, looks like you bet the ball to tight end.
I wasn't sure if he knew that tight end used to be a wide receiver, but little does he know.
Yeah, he won't be alone this weekend, I don't think.
That's funny that you say that because, like a dog, he's loyal to his bone.
It's always been there, out on the field today. I asked him where he was going. He said, all the way now, one by one, as they walk right through the door. They keep on coming back. I guess they just want more. Yeah, fun, fun, fun. As you might call him a whore, but just look where he's at, 'cause he is the one that scores. Go!
It's crazy to me to hear that song and pretty much this whole album and think that only something like 3 or 4 years later they would be doing songs like All the Small Things, which, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of people like that song. I think it's maybe the one they're most known for, at least in their 90s output. But it's worlds away from this, and especially musically I mean that, but even lyrically as well. Nevertheless, I will always treasure the memory I have of seeing them in front of like maybe 80 or 90 people. I've talked about this in previous Blink reactions, but I saw them at an espresso bar in San Juan Capistrano called Steps, and they played with Spoon-Fed, but it was like right as they were just beginning to blow up a little bit, and it was after this album had come out, and I remember they played not only all the songs on this album that are super fast and energetic, but they almost played like 1.5 or like double speed the whole album. So everything was just crazy. It was like thrash pop punk, if that makes sense. And yes, again, I love the tempo, I love the speed, I love the guitar riffs. That is one thing I think that is consistent throughout the album, not just the quality of drumming. And this was their original drummer, I think Scott Raynor was his name. He was eventually replaced, I think famously, by Travis Barker. But in this early stage, it was, again, a guy named Scott. I think the drums are very compelling, and like, you know, the mastering or the particular sound quality of them is very good throughout the album. But the guitar riffs, they just really stand out. And as I said, I think in a way the song is praising this guy, because the narrator's saying, oh, I asked him the other day where he was going. He said all the way. And then let's pause and give a positive assessment of the like play-by-play announcer / color commentator section, where it's like they're commentating on a football game, but they're doing it about this guy's love life, so to speak, which obviously is less about love and is more about lust and physical encounters. But the idea like, well, you know, I don't think he's going to be alone this weekend. No, I don't think so, because, you know, like a dog, he's loyal to his bone, which, you know, it's a cheap line, it's a silly line, but I think it's indicative of the way the song is kind of making fun of the guy, even as it's saying, like, you can't argue with him, you know, he's the one who scores. So, yeah, you might call him a whore, but, again, he's the one who scores. So, it's a funny song to me, maybe like one of the sillier ones on the album, whereas there are multiple songs on this album that, again, they have that pop-punk focus of, you know, romance, emotions, you know, feeling hurt, and so on. But some of them are a bit more serious in terms of the emotion that is examined in the track, whereas this one, I think, is a bit lighter, even if, again, the underbelly of it, there's a bit of a critique, I think. So, yeah, it's another example of why I will always think this is a fantastic album, even if by the time you get to Dude Ranch, I was already disconnecting a little bit, and certainly by the time you get to Enema of the State, I was like, wait a minute, like, this isn't the band that I remember, which, all due respect to them, that's when they were really becoming successful and, winning awards and so on. So I have no personal gripe against the direction they went. Bands are allowed to evolve and go down different alleys that they wish, but this era of Blink, to me, is the best era, and I think this album is the best thing they ever put out. So, in any case, from Luca and I, who, no, it's okay, you want to bite my thumb, that's fine. But yes, from Luca and I, let me know what you think of the tune. I will see you next time. Peace.